Historically speaking, most students don't know who Richard Allen is, or they don't know the significance of the role that he played following the Revolutionary War. Now, Richard Allen was born into slavery in 1760. He was sold to a family, including two of his siblings, that lived in Delaware. And this family requested that he and his siblings would attend this Methodist meeting, like an evening Bible study. Now, this was unique at the time because this Methodist church welcomed free blacks and slaves into their congregation. Now, during this period, he was self-taught He learned to read and to write. And at the age of 17, he made the conversion to become a Methodist. And at that point, he began evangelizing. Now, he became ordained and qualified to preach in 1784, so at the age of 24, at a Methodist Christmas conference in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, although he was qualified and ordained to preach, he was restricted to the types of people he could preach to, meaning he could only preach to minorities, more specifically African Americans. Now, his first teaching opportunities were at St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia. This was in 1786, so 2 years after he had been ordained. Now, he was only able to teach early morning services. These were about 5 a.m., and his group was primarily Africans once again. Now, this group grew in size up to 50 congregants. And as this happened, Allen became resentful towards the white congregants because of their segregation of blacks during worship and prayer. And one of my biggest contentions with the early church and the movement when they came to the New World seeking religious freedom was the lack of effort and emphasis that they put on converting these slaves, and even slavery itself is so backwards to the heart of Christ. And so that's neither here nor there, but you see that Richard Allen was frustrated at this. And so in 1787, Richard Allen, Absalom Jones, William Gray, and William Wiltshire founded the Free African Society, which was a non-denominational mutual aid society that assisted fugitive slave and new migrants to the city. Meaning it was a welcoming committee where they welcomed these minorities into their congregation and taught them the Word of God and worshipped and prayed with them. Now, that same year, this group of men, Absalom Jones and Richard Allen, purchased a piece of property on 6th Street near Lombard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And eventually, the church known as Mother Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church was erected. Now, that happened in 1794, so roughly 7 years after this land was bought. Now, that is of significance because it was the first and the longest standing piece of property owned by Africans. It is still under African American ownership today, and in 1972 it was designated a National Historic Landmark. Now, trailing back, in 1816, Allen united 4 African American congregations of the Methodist Church in Philadelphia, so Salem, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland. And together they founded the independent denomination of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, or the AME. This was the first fully independent black denomination in the United States. Now, from a teaching standpoint, there's more to this than the Christian emphasis of what opportunities God can create, but really the heart and the passion that a once slaved man, Richard Allen, was granted freedom following the Revolutionary War, and he took that as an opportunity to make a name for himself, but also give other opportunities for people that were in similar circumstances. And I think it's beneficial not only to visit this church, which once again is still standing in Philadelphia, but also visit and recap on any documents that are available. But I think from a teaching standpoint, you're able to not only show who these African slaves were, what their personal lives were like, but also you can see some of the opportunities that they created for themselves, especially with the turn of the Revolutionary War and this new outlook on what property was and how a human should not be defined as property. And so I look for the opportunity to one day teach about Richard Allen in a full course, because I think his story is significant, not only to African Americans today, but also to the church, to learn from our mistakes, but also from the resiliency that is found in our congregations.